Miata. Great day for a Miata. Hey everybody, it's Dick here. I'm on my way to the Ace Cafe to do a little guerrilla filmmaking and interview one of my viewers named Barry. Barry is a BMW G310 GS owner. If you've watched my channel for a while, or you've come across my 310 GS videos, you'll know I wasn't impressed when they came out. I do like low displacement motorcycles, which is why I'm going to meet Barry on the Mutt. I do like low displacement motorcycles, and I was really anticipating the arrival of the 310 GS, and was one of the first people in London to test ride one. Not for any special consideration, because I never get any special consideration. I just booked one as soon as the demo was available, and I took one out, and within 5 minutes I was thoroughly disappointed with it. And my disappointment was met with the customary vitriol of YouTube commenters, and I was told that I didn't understand the bike, I didn't understand the purpose of the bike, I didn't understand the market of the bike, I didn't understand the potential buyer of the bike, and I was just a moron. I can admit when I'm a moron, but most of the time I'm pretty well informed, and a lot of the comments about me not understanding or not knowing the market were off the mark, because one, I said in the video, I'm a fan of low displacement bikes, and two, I'm an owner of and have owned many low displacement motorcycles. And so the 310 GS was potentially the answer to the bike I needed at the time, or wanted at the time. I don't ever need a bike. I was disappointed. The video is probably, well, it's as old as the bike, a couple years now, and I still have negative comments popping up on my feed every now and then of people lambasting me about the 310 GS. And I'll tell you the problem I have with a lot of the negative comments of the people who are giving me the brunt end of their keyboards is that I have not seen very many, I'll say, but I was going to say any, but I actually have seen two in the time since they've been released. Two on the road. And that is not what the comments and the promise of this bike implied. This was going to be a bestseller. Now, in all fairness, I did do a bit of research on the worldwide sales of the 310 GS, and I was surprised to find that they're selling very well. Well, maybe not very well. They're selling well enough to justify the production, the continued production of them. So I think in terms of market strategy in developing nations, the BMW gamble on hiring an Indian motorcycle manufacturer and branding a Indian-made motorcycle as a BMW is doing well in developing nations, which was a lion's share of why BMW was diversifying. But in the West, in the developed world, the 310 GS was supposed to attract new riders, which the price of motorcycling, and especially in the UK, the threshold of licensing is greatly diminishing the numbers of new riders. And so this 310 series, the 310 GS and the 310R, I think, was supposed to attract new riders. And I haven't seen any on the road. And the two I saw were very near. Hey, that's interesting. The two I saw were very near the launch of them. So they were swept up in the marketing extravaganza that was the low displacement Beamers. Now, Barry here, I put a call out because I'm always one to have my mind changed. I put a call out on the internets, on Instagram and YouTube, and asked for UK-based 310 GS owners to get in touch and talk to me about their ownership experience, because maybe they know something that we don't know. I mean, I have a FZ6, 2005 Yamaha FZ6. When I ride it, I'm ignored, but I think it's the best bike on the road. One of the best bikes ever made. So it's not going to be, people aren't going to stop and talk to you about it, but I know something they don't know. CB500X owners know the same feeling. A lot of SV650 owners know the same feeling. So maybe Barry is one of the chosen few and knows exactly why the 310 GS is a peach. Now we'll see. Here he is. Did you plan this? Sorry? Did you plan this? the baby and the grown-up? Nice to meet you, Barry. I'm Dick.
Hi, my guest.
How are you?
Yeah.
Thanks for meeting me.
Hi Dick, nice to meet you. I'm Barry Joyce. I'm retired. I'm 73 years old. Motorcycling is my passion, has been since I was a young boy. So I'm very, very experienced, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. I've been riding a long time, maybe 55 years or so, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm a fairly average rider. Not into speed, I just love being on a bike. And for me, the ride is everything. I've always been a petrol head. My dad was a petrol head, so ever since I was a young boy, I could recognize any car on the road. When I was in India as a young boy, there were all foreign cars there, all old American cars. There were no Indian-made cars. One of my party tricks my dad used to make me do was point at a car and say, "What car is that?" And I'd say, you know, Studebaker, an Oldsmobile, something like that. And then I got into motorbikes. My dad had an old Velisette, a 350 Velisette. One of my mate's elder brother had a Royal Enfield and a Vespa scooter, and we used to ride this thing illegally up and down the road when we were about 12 years old. I'm just a complete petrol head. I just like anything with an engine in it. The first bike I actually bought was a CB200 Honda, little twin, which was very neat and very nice with wooden brakes, I remember. That's my first bike. I had to get a friend to ride it back from the dealership because I hadn't passed my test yet. Oh goodness, I've lost count.
Can you remember?
I've lost count, really. Probably 25, 30. Since I was about 40, I've had 12 BMWs, one after the other, and been a BMW freak. I've had a few bikes between my last BMW and this. And as I'm getting older, I'm getting smaller and smaller. I've been right up to an 1150 GS, and now I've come down through 850, 1100, 650, and now I'm on a 300cc, which is more than enough for me, really. The one I traded in for this was a CRF 250 Rally, a Honda, which was very, very nice, very nice. But well, to be honest, I've got a keeper, a bike at home, and I change my bike virtually every year just because I like bikes and I try something else. I loved the Honda, absolutely loved it. Had a bit of trouble getting on and off it because it was quite high. I mean, once I was on it, the suspension sung and I could manage it all right, but just getting on and off it, if there was a slight adverse camber, I'd struggle a bit and looked a bit of a noob, you know, turning up somewhere and getting off it and struggling. Absolutely loved it. Loved the engine. The road performance was a little bit compromised by, obviously, because it was more off-road oriented. Now, I never ride off-road. I ride on bad roads, but never ride off-road. So most of the capabilities of the Honda were wasted on me. I can't afford to fall off now at my age because it's going to take a long time to get better. But I ride on some very bad roads in India, for instance. So it's not really off-road. I mean, some of my mates in India go and ride off-road, you know, with intention. whereas I come across a bad road, which is sometimes pretty challenging. But I wouldn't call myself an off-road rider. I have a Moto Guzzi, a 750 Stone, which is, in my opinion, the best bike I've ever owned. For me, the best bike for me, because it suits me. I just love it to bits. It's a 2015. I've modified it cosmetically a bit, and I just love it. Every time I ride it, I smile. I smile, and I can't stop smiling. Well, it depends what I'm doing. I've only had this like 3 weeks or so.
You've only had this 2 weeks?
3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, yeah. Yeah, I've only just got this.
Okay.
I'm still getting used to it, and I still haven't made my mind up about it.
Yeah.
But if I had to go for a long ride, the Guzzi would be,
The one.
yeah. I've done a long ride on this. I went up to North Wales on this when I first got it, just a couple of weeks ago, which was very, very nice. Proved to be very capable. And the longer I sat on it, the more I liked it.
Okay.
But I still can't make my mind up about it, because sometimes I get on in the morning and think, oh, really? Well, I rode it first in 2017 when it came out,
Okay.
and I didn't like it at all. I can't remember what I was riding at the time, but probably a much bigger bike than this. And I found it very buzzy, too high. I don't find it high now, so why in 2017 I wasn't any shorter then? I don't know why. But recently I've just been riding my little CRF around, and I rocked up at the BMW dealer and saw this demonstrator outside, and just to amuse myself, so let's try it again.
Yeah.
Rode it for about half an hour and absolutely loved it. It just blew me away, because it was much easier to handle, moving it around, getting on and off than the CRF.
Yeah.
It had a lot more performance, which in the first 10 minutes is quite exciting, quite attractive.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm about, really. So I'm very impulsive. I just said, okay, take the CRF and I'll have this. No, actually, the dealer I go to, the BMW dealer, is quite good like that. They just leave you alone with the bike. They don't try and sell it to you.
Okay.
As far as I know, they haven't changed anything.
Okay.
It's exactly the same. They had a couple of recalls with a side stand or something like that, but there's nothing mechanically changed about that.
Okay.
It still is buzzy. Yeah, I've come back to it, but I'm still not in love with it.
Curious to that.
Yeah. I did 600 miles up in Wales. So, yeah, I've done about 1,000 miles.
Okay.
I was very, very impressed. Very impressed. It sort of grew on me. The comfort is unbelievable. I would say that's almost the most comfortable bike I've ever ridden, because it fits me so well. Now, on the second day in Wales, I rode for 11 hours. Just stopping for tea, 15 minutes, 1 hour max for lunch. So I would say the riding time was probably about 9.5 hours. Absolutely no problem, no aches and pains. The next day I was fine. There is a bit of a buzz, but it doesn't make my hands numb. You can feel a high frequency buzz, but perform fine. But I have to say, I keep off motorways. No matter what I'm riding, I could be riding at 1250. I keep off motorways. I just hate motorways.
Yeah.
So whatever I'm on, I keep on. So I ride at about 55, 60 maybe. About 60, I'd say.
60.
Yeah, it's very pleasant at 60. It's not very flexible. It feels flexible initially. So when you're slowing down, the engine doesn't misbehave. But if you try and open the throttle and pick it up, it stalls quite easily, which I believe is because it has a very light flywheel. It's very similar to a KTM I had. I had a KTM 390, which I didn't like either, because it's very similar to that. It's not quite as peaky as the KTM, but it's nearer the KTM than the CRF. No, absolutely. I wasn't in the market for another bike. I'd rocked up at the dealer, saw this thing, had a ride, and said, okay, let's change it. And that's how I buy most of my bikes, to be honest. I said, the Guzzi I'll never change. It's going to be with me till I die. But second bike, not so important, really. Essentially, I don't need a bike. I'm riding for pleasure. I don't need a bike. So I want bikes, but I certainly don't need them. No, I'm always excited buying a new bike, and it's 50% of it is the way it looks. I quite like the way it looks. The fact that it's compact fits me. 50% is the way it the way it sounds and the engine feels, which is the bit I'm disappointed with. Despite putting this thing on, it still doesn't sound. It has a very nice riding position. I like riding it. I like everything about it apart from the engine, which is the main thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, most bikes handle and brake can outperform me.
Yeah.
So can most engines. The feel of the engine is what really gets me into motorcycling, and this thing really doesn't.
You said
feel.
you've ridden Royal Enfields, and after a Royal
Exactly, yes. I've got, I've had bullets out in India. Just absolutely love them.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got another one on order for when I get there. Otherwise, the bike can outperform me. As I say, I'm very experienced, but not an expert. So the bike can outhandle me, it can outbrake me, it can outperform me in the engine. It's got more than what I need. For me, motorcycling is such a visceral experience. It's not about being practical. I don't have to think, can I carry luggage or can I carry a pillion or what's the economy like? All that is totally irrelevant. If it makes me smile and I like this, whoa! You may notice I've taken the rack off here.
Okay.
And these are from the 310R.
Okay.
Because I just like the neat look of it.
Yes.
And the luggage rack is huge. It's almost disproportionately huge, the original luggage rack. So I just had a tank bag and a roll bag, because I never carry a pillion passenger.
Yeah.
I don't care whoever asks me, I just don't like doing it. As a result, I'm not even insured for a pillion passenger. And on my other bikes, I've taken off the pillion footrest so that no one can say, can I have a ride?
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, just a roll bag strapped on here, and I've got a tank bag. I haven't seen another one on the road.
Yeah.
It does attract a bit of attention because people don't recognize it as a BMW. They do. The people who have BMWs know it's a smaller bike, but the sports bike jockeys are a bit sniffy about it because it's a small bike, not a high performance bike, but you get that everywhere anyway. And I like to travel alone. I usually travel alone. I quite like traveling alone because I can ride at my pace, do what I want. Otherwise, I'm trying to keep up with someone or waiting for someone. Usually trying to keep up with someone, which I don't like at all. So I travel alone. Probably not. Marginally. Not that I'm that disappointed with it. It just hasn't hit the sweet spot for me. I can think of a couple of other bikes I'd rather have.
Okay.
Yes, probably. I think it's a very nice bike. Because I'm old school, because I'm quite old, I like the bop of the engine, which a lot of kids maybe not, are not familiar with and are not looking forward to that. So that's something that's necessary for me. I still can't make my mind up whether I'm pleased with it or not. Yes, if this was stolen, I would take the insurance money and buy something else.
Yeah,
and I know what I'd buy as well.
Okay, that's my next question.
I think the Himalayan is what stolen my heart, really. They have a certain charm about them which just suits me. And it's a bit like Zen motorcycling. You just sort of get on it and you're, just in another space. You don't have to keep up with anything. I compare it to an old Citroen 2CV I had once. You're not interested in who goes past you, whatever happens. You're just in your own space, enjoying the ride. It's just lovely. And the Himalayan does that for me. Probably the new KTM, the 390, is probably the nearest in price and performance. Although I think that's got more performance than this. But the Himalayan's a lot cheaper than that. No, not in this country, because I bought this second hand. I got this for a very good price. But in India, because the Himalayan is less than half the price of this, despite this being made in India. I've already got it, my Moto Guzzi. Yeah, I've ridden a lot of bikes. I've never had a bike that gives me as much pleasure as my Guzzi. I spend hours just looking at it. And I get on it, go for a ride. And my friends are just bored to tears with me coming back and saying, God, that's a fantastic bike. And every time I ride it, I think that. And they might ride it and they probably wouldn't think that. It's not huge performance. It can easily outperform me. Handling, the engine performance, the braking. I just love it. Every time I'm on it, I just come back and I'm reluctant. When I come home, I stand outside the garage, look at it for 15 minutes before putting it away. And that's part of the motorcycle for me. You got to like looking at your bike. You know, as you're walking away from it, you've got to turn around, look back at it. I'll probably keep it for a while. I'll probably keep it for another year. See what I feel like when I come back, because I'll be riding my other bikes in India.
I went into this with half a hope to have my mind changed about the 310 GS. Listening to Barry, even he's not convinced about the bike. A week after our meeting, I got an email from Barry pretty much confirming what I had thought all along. I'm glad I took a second look, as it gave me an opportunity to change my mind, but in this instance I have to say that my first impression was right on the nose. But on the bright side, I got to meet Barry. If you like that video, and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.